Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well because today I will be discussing about the cardiovascular system of our body, the human body. So I am Anne-Marie B. Pacheco, third year BSED Science, and I am hoping that you will be able to listen carefully so that you can learn something from the discussion. So okay, let's start. So the cardiovascular system transports cells and dissolved materials, including nutrients, wastes, and gases. So basically, the cardiovascular system, also known as the circulatory system, allows for the delivery of needed substances to the cells of the body as well as for the removal of waste. So how does it transport materials throughout the body? So we have here the three main organ or component and their primary functions. So first we have the heart. So basically speaking, the heart propels blood and maintains blood pressure in the body. So we will be discussing deeper about the heart later on. Next is we have the blood vessels, which is the main function is to distribute blood around the body. So it consists of three types with different functions. The arteries, which carry blood from heart to capillaries. The capillaries, which permit diffusion between blood and interstitial fluids. And the veins, which return blood from capillaries to the heart. So in the image shown, we can see the cardiovascular system of the human body, with the heart as its main organ, the blood vessels which consist of the arteries, which are the red blood vessels, the veins which are the color blue, and capillaries which are the smallest and barely visible blood vessels, which connects the arteries and the veins. So the circulatory system, sometimes called the cardiovascular system, consists of the heart, the blood vessels, and blood, as what I've discussed earlier. So it transports oxygen, hormones, and nutrients to all the cells in the body. So it also picks up waste products generated by metabolic processes and delivers them to other organs for disposal. So for example, the blood vessels deliver waste to the kidneys for excretion of waste products. So the heart also provides the muscle needed to pump blood throughout the body. So with its chambers, valves, and all of its parts working together towards the same goal, the heart successfully pumps blood with ease. So the system circulates blood in two circuits, so the pulmonary circuit and the systemic circuit. So your heart pumps blood through two major pathways. First, let's discuss about pulmonary circulation. So the pulmonary circulation transports oxygen-poor blood from the right ventricle to the lungs, where blood picks up a new oxygen supply. So basically, it moves blood between the heart and the lungs. It transports the oxygenated blood to the lungs to absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So the oxygenated blood then flows back to the heart. On the other hand, in systemic circulation, it returns oxygen-rich blood and nutrients to the left atrium, and it's pumped out all over the body. So it also picks up carbon dioxide and other waste products. Basically, it moves blood between the heart and the rest of the body. So here we can see the flow of blood in pulmonary and systemic circuit. So in the pulmonary circulation, the blood carrying carbon dioxide goes through the pulmonary artery into the lungs to pick up oxygen. Then, the blood from the lungs carrying the oxygen flows through the pulmonary vein back to the lungs. So from the heart to the lungs and back to the heart. In systemic circulation, blood from the body carrying carbon dioxide flows through the systemic vein into the heart. Then from the heart, the oxygenated blood flows through the systemic artery into the body. So from the body to the heart and then back to the body. So the blood carry the hormones, oxygen, and nutrients throughout the body. The hormones from glands help regulate cell activity. The oxygen from the lungs combines with nutrients to provide energy, and the nutrients from the digestive system provide food for the cell. In the picture, we can see the oxygen-rich blood, which is portrayed by the red arrow. So it enters the heart from the lungs and goes out to the body. The oxygen-poor blood, on the other hand, portrayed in the blue arrow, enters the heart from the body and goes out to the lungs. The circulatory system works in conjunction with other body systems to keep it working properly. When your blood circulates through your digestive system, it picks up nutrients your body absorbed from your last meal. Your blood also carries oxygen inhaled by the lungs. Your circulatory system delivers oxygen and nutrients to your heart and the other cells of your body, then picks up any waste products created by these cells, including carbon dioxide, and delivers these waste products to the kidneys and lungs for disposal. The circulatory system carries hormones from the endocrine system and the immune system's white blood cells that fight off infection. The circulatory system provides your brain with a constant supply of oxygen-rich blood, while your brain regulates your heart rate and blood pressure. Your circulatory system also delivers oxygen-rich blood to your bones, meanwhile your bones are busy making new blood cells. So now let's discuss more about the heart. So the heart is an essential pumping organ in the cardiovascular system, where the right heart pumps the oxygenated blood returned from the body tissues to the lungs for gas exchange, while the left heart pumps oxygenated blood returned from the lungs, tissues, cells for sustaining cellular respiration. The heart is roughly cone-shaped, hollow muscular organ found in all animals and human beings with a circulatory system. The term cardiac means related to the heart and comes from the Greek word cardia, meaning heart. So the human heart is about the size of a fist and has a mass of between 250 and 300 grams. It is about 10 cm long and located slightly left of middle in the chest, anterior to the vertebral column and posterior to the sternum. The position of the heart. So the heart is situated in the thoracic cavity in mediasternum, the space between the lungs. So it lies little more to the left than the right and have base above and an apex below. The apex is about 9 cm to the left of the midline at the level of the fifth intercostal space, little below the nipple and slightly nearer the midline. The base extends to the level of the second rib. So in this picture, we can see the heart position in the thorax. The heart is composed of 3 layers of tissue called the pericardium, myocardium, and endocardium. So the pericardium is a triple-layered fluid-filled sac that surrounds the heart. The pericardium encloses the heart and great vessels. It keeps the heart in a stable location, and the mediastinum facilitates its movements and separates it from the lungs and other mediastinal structures. It also supports physiological cardiac function. So in this picture, we can see the pericardium, which is a fluid-filled sac that surrounds the heart. Next is the myocardium. The muscles of the heart, termed the myocardium, make up the middle and thickest layer of the heart wall. This layer lies between the single-cell endocardium layer, which lines the inner chambers, and the outer epicardium, which makes up the part of the pericardium that surrounds and protects the heart. So as you can see in the picture, we can see that the myocardium is the thickest layer of the heart. So the last layer of the heart is the endocardium. So it is the innermost layer of the heart and lines the chambers and extends over projecting structures such as the valves, chordae tendineae, and papillary muscles. It keeps the blood flowing through the heart, separate from the myocardium or cardiac muscles. It also lines the valves which open and close to regulate blood flow through the chambers of the heart. So now let's go to the chambers of the heart. The heart is a hollow organ divided into 4 chambers: the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and the left ventricle, as you can see in the picture. First is the right atrium. The right atrium is a broad, triangular structure. It receives blood low in oxygen from the body and then empties the blood into the right ventricle. The interior surface of the right atrium can be divided a smooth-walled venous component posteriorly. The vestibule is smooth, but its conjunction with the auricle is rigged all around the atrioventricular junction. So the oxygen-poor blood from the body enters the right atrium first. Next is the right ventricle. The right ventricle extends from the atrioventricular or tricuspid orifice nearly to the cardiac apex, and it then reaching the pulmonary orifice and supporting the cusps of the pulmonary valve. The ventricle possesses an inlet component which supports and surrounds the tricuspid valve. Next is the left atrium. The left atrium is roughly cuboidal and extends behind the right atrium, separated from it by the obliquely positioned septum. The left part is concealed anteriorly by the initial segments of the pulmonary trunk and aorta. And lastly is the left ventricle. So the left ventricle is constructed in accordance with its role as a powerful pump that sustains the high-pressured systemic arteries. Its long axis descends forwards and to the left. Its cavity is oval or nearly circular, with walls about 3 times thicker than those of the right ventricle. So now let's go to the valves of the heart. So every opening between the chambers and into the vessels is supplied with a valve that protects backward flow of blood. The 2 atrioventricular or AV valves, which are between the atria and the ventricles, are the mitral valve and the tricuspid valve. The 2 semilunar or SL valves, which are in the arteries leaving the heart, are the aortic valve and the pulmonary valve. So first is the atrioventricular valves. So these are small valves that prevent backflow from the ventricles into the atrium during systole. So the mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid valve, contains 2 flaps. It allows the blood to flow from the left atrium into the left ventricle. It is on the left side of the heart and has 2 cusps. A common complication of rheumatic fever is thickening and stenosis of the mitral valve. The second one is the tricuspid valve. So it is the 3-flapped valve on the right side of the heart, between the right atrium and the right ventricle, which stops the backflow of blood between the 2. Then the semilunar valves, or SV valves, are located at the base of both the pulmonary trunk and the aorta. The aorta valve lies between the left ventricle and aorta. During ventricular systole, pressure rises in the left ventricle. When the pressure in the left ventricle rises above the pressure in the aorta, the aortic valve opens, allowing blood to exit the left ventricle in the aorta. The pulmonary valve, however, is the semilunar valve of the heart that lies between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. Similar to the aortic valve, the pulmonary valve opens in ventricular systole, when the pressure in the right ventricle rises above the pressure in the pulmonary artery. So in this picture, we can see the blood flow through the heart. So the deoxygenated blood enters through the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. So it goes through the right atrium and passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. So from the right ventricle, it passes through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery and goes to the lungs to get oxygen. So the oxygenated blood from the lungs goes through the pulmonary vein into the left atrium. So it passes then to the mitral valve into the left ventricle. Then from there, it goes through the aortic valve into the aorta, which is transported by the arteries throughout the body. So in the lungs, the carbon dioxide in the blood diffuses into the alveoli. The oxygen in the lungs diffuses into the blood. This is called the gas exchange. In the picture, we can see the diffusion of oxygen and the diffusion of carbon dioxide in the alveolus and the capillary. So after that, oxygenated blood is carried to all body cells where oxygen diffuses into the cells and carbon dioxide diffuses into the blood. Blood carrying carbon dioxide then returns to the heart and the cycle begins again. So in this picture, we can see the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide, the changing of products and materials by the capillaries and the red blood cell. So now let's discuss about blood vessels. Over 600,000 miles of blood vessels transport your blood throughout your body. There are three types of blood vessels: the arteries, veins, and capillaries. So the arteries, blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart to other parts of the body. They are much thicker than veins because of the high pressure of blood coming from the heart. The veins are blood vessels that carry blood from the body back to the heart. And the capillaries are tiny tubes that carry blood from the arteries to the body cells and then back to the veins. So as you can see in the picture of the artery, it has a very thick layer rather than the veins. So the capillaries, these are blood vessels that connects the arterioles and the venules, wherein there is an exchange of products and materials. So first, let's talk about arteries. So these strong muscular blood vessels carry oxygen-rich blood from your heart to your body. They handle a large amount of force and pressure from your blood flow but don't carry a large volume of blood. At any given time, only about 10% to 15% of your body's blood is in your arteries. So each artery is a muscular tube lined by smooth tissue and has three layers. The intima, the inner layer lined by a smooth tissue called the endothelium. Next is the veins. The veins bring blood to the right side of your heart. Pulmonary arteries carry the blood to your lungs where it receives oxygen. And pulmonary veins move the oxygen-rich blood to the left side of your heart. So here we can see a picture of a vein. So it has thin outer layer, then thin inner layer of muscle and elastin, the endothelium, and also the wide central lumen is shown in the picture. Lastly is the capillary. So body tissues contain a vast network of thin capillaries. Capillary walls are only 1 cell thick, allowing exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste. Capillaries are so fine that red blood cells must line up single-filed to go through them. So the first picture shows the veins and the arteries connected by the capillaries. So in the capillaries, there is an exchange of materials such as the red blood cell carrying oxygen, the nutrients, the carbon dioxide, and the waste. So in this picture, we can see the difference between an artery, a vein, and a capillary. So an artery has a thick outer wall. It has a small lumen and thick layer of muscles and elastic fibers. So a vein is a thin layer of muscle and elastic fibers. It has a large lumen and a fairly thin outer wall. While the capillary is a very small lumen and wall made of a single layer of cell. So now let's talk about the most common cardiovascular diseases. So first, which is the most common, is the coronary heart disease. So the signs and symptoms of this disease is angina or dull or heavy to sharp chest pain or discomfort, pain in the neck, jaw, throat, and upper abdomen or back. The heart attack is also one of the most common diseases. So chest pain or discomfort, upper back or neck pain, indigestion, heartburn, nausea and vomiting, extreme fatigue, upper body or discomfort, and shortness of breath. So these are the signs and symptoms of heart attack. Next is the arrhythmia. So symptoms includes fluttering feelings or palpitations. And lastly is the heart failure. It is shortness of breath, fatigue, swelling in the feet, ankles, legs, and the abdomen. So these are the 4 most common cardiovascular disease. So in order to avoid cardiovascular diseases, these are the simple steps you have to do. So first and foremost, you have to eat healthy. So you need to eat fruits and vegetables and avoid junk foods or soft drinks. So second is get active. So you have to exercise regularly so that your body could function properly. Third is stay at a healthy weight. Fourth is quit smoking and stay away from secondhand smoke. Control your cholesterol and blood pressure, and drink alcohol only in moderation, and also manage your stress. So those are the simple steps you have to follow in order to have a healthy heart. So that's all for my report and discussion. Thank you all for watching this video, and God bless.